Oh yeah, what's up everybody? Welcome along to the mastering episode of the Noisia Track from Scratch series. Now, as you can see, I have 10 sausage fatteners on the master and we are basically ready to go. But in all seriousness, we do have our mixed down track rendered out. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Noisia reference tracks. I typically have a rule when it comes to music production. Never listen to a Noisia song and then listen to your song straight after, because just, I mean, it's Noisia at the end of the day, so. But we're listening to 5 of them and comparing it to our track. Oh, this is gonna sound trash. We have the Arachnus remix. We have the Contact Noisia remix. Noisia featuring Foreign Beggars. Go away! Noisia featuring Foreign Beggars, Contact, Noisia remix. Kind of like Skrillex, my name is Skrillex, Skrillex remix. Now of course we have the banger that is Dead Limit. We have Dust Up, another personal favourite of mine, with them and the upbeats. I think Omnivore's them with upbeats as well. So we're going to be doing a lot of comparing to those 5 Noisia tracks. Typically with these mastering episodes, I usually do it all in Ozone, but I'm thinking we change it up this time. Use some Ableton stuff and then see how it goes. I feel like Ozone gets you a really clean sound. Let's go for a grittier approach with some like saturators and transient shapers, etc. But we are going to use Ozone's equalizer, imager, and maximizer. And then we'll hopefully bring in the distortion with other plugins and some things like that. Now, I'm tempted to do 2 ways with the saturator on this track. And by the way, this is on this track, not the mastering track. So the Noisia tracks have nothing on the output, but our track has the effects on the output. So yeah, I think I've been asked that quite a few times in the comment section before. Just thought I'd make that clear in this one. Yeah, 2 ways tempted to use this. Either use the drive just a little bit with a little bit of bass, or crank the drive and then use the dry wet. So that's super clean. I think we should use dry wet. If you can remember, through basically the entire series I've been using the saturator on the master just because I like the sound of it, but I turned it off for the mix down and now we're kind of reintroducing it back into the mix. So I don't know if that's effective or not, but we can turn the output down a little bit, keep the dry wet on, and then see what happens. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with the sound and make it completely muddy and the frequencies aren't crystal clear. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Actually, let's use this EQ. High pass and a quicker slope, steeper slope. Around there. Do the usual job of sorting for problematic frequencies. So make sure it's on bell, increase the Q, and then just sweep it up the frequency range, see if you can find anything. That's a little bit problematic, so we'll just dip that a little bit. We went way overboard last time with the Bass House series. I think I was doing like 7 dB cuts. 3's fine, honestly. I can't hear that. It's a little bit gross. Since it's bass, we won't do that much reduction because we still want the sub to punch through, but we also want to clean it up a bit. So, that's some food for thought. Yeah, that can go away. Alright, let's do before and after. Where's the snare punch gone? Anyway, drag that before the saturator, and let's load up another Ozone for the imager and exciter? I haven't really thought about how I'm going to do this too much. Which I probably should. Let's move on to something different. Actually, it drops the main impact of the track. I always seem to focus on the drop when doing the mastering, because that's the most important part. It's going to make the biggest impression and have the most impact. So if we can get the drop right, the chances are the rest of the track's going to sound mint. So, oh, that's a fat sub. Sorry, I'm not explaining what I'm doing. I'm basically within each of these bands trying to find a point between the 0 and the +1. I think that's a good amount of width, so that's kind of, could be pushed out a little bit. This will make it wider, and this will make it like towards +1. So if we can get it a little bit wider, that's good. And then the high one, I think that's fine. And typically with a sub, it is more mono, so not. Actually, that sounds badass. No, mono. I think exciter, then dynamics. But let's do the exciter after the dynamics. With the dynamics, we are compressing each individual band, so our bass, our mids, our highs, our really highs, and yeah, we just want a little bit of compression on each, and then when we reference our Noisia tracks, we can sort it out and compress it properly. We want a tighter bass, so that's really weird because in our Bass House series the bass was already pretty tight, but in this one it's sounding a little bit too sloppy. Yeah, I've got sloppy bass, not about that. So quick release and attack. Let's see what the action is. Oh wow. Oh, I don't know. Typically with bass you have longer attacks and longer release. That is quite quick for bass. We can always come back to it when referencing anyways. Now, the mid-range here is important in drum and bass because that's where the snare punch is coming through. So if you do too much compression, it'll take away the punch and hit of the snare. But if you do not enough compression, it won't sound tight. So that's a dilemma. Like, researchers and scientists have been working away at that for years, and honestly, they've come up empty. We don't know what to do. We can blatantly see where the snares popping are, so we can like crank that attack so it misses the snares. It's still hitting the snares. Like I said, we can come back to these when we're referencing our Noisia tracks. Whatever, moving on to the next band. This is also equally important. It's the punchiness of the kick and the snare on the high end. This is where you're gonna hear it through like smaller speakers, like phones, laptop speakers, and shit like that. So it's important to get this a little bit punchy as well. I think that is pretty decent, and the high end might just slam this a little bit. By slamming I mean quick attack, so it's doing all that kind of crazy action up there, and a faster ratio. So that might be too quick of an attack. I don't know, like I said, we'll see when we reference our track. So everything should sound just a little bit more muted when we turn off the dynamics. It's so quiet, but we can come back to it. Another thing I want to do is use the glue compressor. I'm a big fan of the sound, and I haven't used it in tandem with Ozone before, but I have used it by itself, because typically at the end of every series I do a mastering with Ozone, and then I do a mastering with stock Ableton plugins, and with that the glue compressor provides the loudness and the punch and just everything good. So I'm going to use it in tandem with Ozone. Get a little bit of gain reduction happening here on the compressor. That didn't sound that bad. It just glues everything together. What else can you say about it? It is a beautiful plugin. I think there's only one thing left to do. Where's your Ozone at? Where's your Ozone at? IRC4, fast release. Yeah, there we go. And true peak limiting, and let's smash the shit out of it. Oh, let's turn it down to this. Let's make these levels bigger. And like I say, in every mastering video, we should be aiming for actually whatever Noisia says. I forgot it was sounding so muted from the multiband dynamics, but you know, we're gonna fix that now. Which track are we gonna predominantly reference? Which one's my favorite? Dead Limit's not quite. The sound, I did say Omnivore because I dig that snare. A little bit too squishy. It's gotta be Contact. That's just in. Too much bass. Not enough high end, and that was my conclusion from it. Let's check out the imager. Basically mono. Sweet, we've got that sorted. Why is the mid-band so mono? Okay, it's the high end and the very high end that are like more spread, so we can make this a bit more mono. Let's see that again. What? I think the mid-wide sounds cool. The mid-wide. That wide mid sound. I don't know, I'm chatting shit. Theirs was like that. I'm not ready to commit to that yet. Maybe that. Why is our stereo field too wide? That is just weird. Alright, let's move on to dynamics. And then... Cool, so we got the same. Actually, let's make sure no compression's happening. But I just want to hear what it's like. We got too much bass. Yeah, it needs way more compression. I think we're close. Alright, let's move on to the mids. Our mids are too punchy, we can solve that, Noisia. Their mids are slightly louder. Are they? No, they're not. They're less punchy though. Let's just try a stupidly high ratio, and then if it sounds trash and the snare's not hitting through, then we will remove said ratio and bring it back down to normal. Alright, let's move on to the high end. It's a low high end. Quicker attack? What is this? Attack and release? I feel like they got way more high end than me. Never mind, there's a squished more, so That's the secret if you want to make your track louder. Just squish it more with a multiband. This is somehow more dynamic yet louder. Whatever, we'll leave it there. Move on to the next one. Solo. Okay, this is way more punchier and louder. Squish it a little bit more. Hopefully we have a noisier sounding track now. Apart from the blatant fact that it's slightly louder, but that is more squish control. I knew that ratio would bite me in the butt. Oh, we forgot to check loudness overall. That's what we need to compare. Mute that. Let's check the noisier one. Look at the levels. Look at the dark green and the light green. -5-ish. We could crank out just a little bit more, and then it should be on point with that. Oh, it's squished already. Not even looking at ozone, just looking at the level. Shout out to the glue compressor. That's so much punchier. But it's not glue. Beautiful. Reverb. That doesn't sound half bad. Now what? This mastering session, we don't play by the rules. I'm gonna crank that up just a little bit there and see how it goes. That's so subtle I can barely hear it. Yeah, keeping it. I don't even care. There's some loud kicks in that bit. My goodness. Come on, multiband dynamics. Squish those peaks. New bit. Oh yeah, and this bit. So that bit is obviously new, and that was the last episode. I did a mini episode, made it unlisted because it's kind of essential to the series, but like it's literally just screen recorder and me making this bass, no commentary, whatever. But if you do want to check out, I'll leave a link in the description of me making this bass inside of Operator, and then I use heaps of OTT and saturator and EQ notches to make the zhuzh kind of sound with the band passes. And yeah, by the time you reach this phase of mastering and you're trying to like get it as loud as a noisier track but retain the punchiness and whatever, it's just pushing up that ozone maximizer and it's just squishing it too much. No, well, I'm going to sacrifice our loudness a little bit just for the punch. Well, we got 9, we're going to 8.8. Anyway, headphones off, you know what that means. It is time to wrap up the episode. Pretty chuffed with it overall. It still annoys me how Noisia can get their tracks so loud, so crisp, so clean, so clear, so under control. Congrats Noisia for making sick music. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for inspiring me. You are definitely an inspiration to those, not to myself, but other producers as well around the world. It's just, your tracks are so good. I'm actually keen to hear what's next for the three lads. If they're gonna do their own solo projects, or if they're gonna pull a pendulum and just not make anything, say the band is over, and then get the band back together 10 years later. So yeah, that is that. But important piece of advice before we go is, this is only stage 1 of the mastering. I'm gonna go away and then come back half an hour later, listen to it, compare it with the Noisia tracks, make some tweaks, reference, blah blah blah, then ditch for half an hour, get fresh ears again, come back, work on it, etc, etc. It doesn't have to be half an hour, just a rough estimate, and then keep tweaking until it sounds good. And that's usually after like a day or many hours, etc, etc. The important thing is, by now I've probably got ear fatigue, so I'm not really hearing the track as it should be. Some things might be dramatically out, but I've just gotten used to listening to this track and how it is currently. But it's important to go away, then come back, and go away and come back, and keep working on that master until it sounds banging. And then one point you'll just come back, sit down, and listen to it like, okay, I got no faults, and that is the time to render it. Oh, and play it on other speakers as well. That's probably a good idea. Time to listen to it start to finish. You guys have been amazing. Next episode is going to be the download of this magnificent project file. Not this one, but the one we actually made the track in. So that is the next episode. It will be next Friday, I think. So yeah, stay tuned for that. All right, enough plugging. Let's listen to this track. Where's the fade out? Where's the quietness? There. Fucking sick. So stoked with that. I was really worried at the start of the series. I'm like, shit, man. Noisia inspired track from scratch. That's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be super hard. How am I gonna do it? What is this loud bit right? Oh, that's the kicks. And yeah, really, really chuffed with that. Is it time to announce the next track from scratch series?